going to attempt to draw our first unit circle, and we're going to do this many, many times as we go through this unit and through the course. I want you to start, and what you're going to need to do is watch the video, pause it, draw on your own paper, watch the video, pause, draw on your own paper. So right now I want you to draw a circle. You can use a compass if you have one, or what I do sometimes is I just pick a glass or a bowl out of the cabinet and draw around that bowl. And I want you to locate the origin, and then I want you to label the degrees and radians at each of your axes. So 0, 90, 180, 270. So then those would also be 0 pi, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. So go ahead and pause the video and draw that first. All right, now I want you to go and instead of pi over 2, instead of dividing this pi into halves, we're going to back up and we're going to put a mark at each of these places, which would be the fourths. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4 before I get to pi. So I'm going to label each one of those a fourth of pi. So this one is pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, and 8 pi over 4. These places are our 45 degree. So 45, 90, 135, 180, 225, 270, and 315. Then we're going to go back and we're going to divide this thing into, instead of pi being divided into fourths, we're going to divide it into sixths. So I'm going to have pi over 6, and then I'm going to go another sixth and have 2 pi over 6, which is pi over 3. This would be 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, which would be 4 pi over 3, 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, 9 pi over 6. So this would be 10 pi over 6, which would be 5 pi over 3. And this would be 11 pi over 6. So notice I have sixth here. Every other one goes to a third. So I have 1/3 pi, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, and 6/3. So these are going every 30 degrees. So this is 30, 30 more makes 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, and 360. So pause your video and make yours look just like mine. The next thing I want you to do is get a straight edge and draw from the origin to, just in the first quadrant, each of these places. And then from those places, draw a perpendicular line to the x-axis so that you've formed a triangle. So what I formed here, since from here to here was 30 degrees, that makes this angle inside here 60 degrees, and this is 90 degrees. So what I've just formed is a special right triangle. And the only measurement that I know on the special right triangle is the measurement from the origin to the outside of the circle. I know that that is 1 unit long because it's a radius. What I want to try to find is the length from here to here and the length from here to here, because that will tell me the ordered pair at that particular place. Well, I know that in a special right triangle that the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So in this case, since the hypotenuse is 1, the short leg has to be a half. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on just that part for you. I know that that short leg has to be a half, and I know that the long leg is always the square root of 3 of whatever that short leg is. So that one's going to be 1/2 times the square root of 3. And 1/2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 3 over 2. So the length from here to here is the square root of 3 over 2. So that would be the x value of this ordered pair, and 1/2 would be the y value. Let's go to the 60-degree angle. In this case, from here to here is 60 degrees, which means that this is 30 degrees inside this triangle. So this time, what happens is the value along the x-axis and the value along the y-axis are going to switch. So instead of going over the square root of 3 and up 1/2, this one's going to go over 1/2 and up the square root of 3 over 2. And then in our 45 triangle, this is 45 and this is 45. This time our hypotenuse is 1. I'm going to go down here on the bottom. Our hypotenuse is 1, and that equals the leg squared plus the leg squared. So 1 equals 2 legs squared. So 1/2 equals the legs squared. So then I want to square root both sides. So I get the square root of 1 over the square root of 2. Multiply top and bottom by square root of 2 over square root of 2. So each leg is the square root of 2 over 2. So going back up to my unit circle, this ordered pair is the square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. All right, go ahead and pause. Draw this on your circle and then come back. So what we just found was the ordered pair that goes with pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, and so on. We can find that all the way around the circle. And we're not going to draw this in, but if you think about drawing a triangle that goes to 5 pi over 6, that triangle is going to be similar to the triangle we had over here. So the length along the x-axis is going to be the same as the length along the x-axis here, except so our ordered pair is going to be the same. It's going to be the square root of 3 over 2 for x and 1/2 for y. Except for this time, the x value has gone to the left, so it's going to be negative. I could draw a triangle here, and that's going to have the same value as this. So at 3 pi over 4, the ordered pair is the square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Except for, again, the x value is going to be negative. Here, it's going to be the same as this one. So it's going to be negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. I could draw these same triangles here and here. So this value is going to be the same as that value. We just have to go back and adjust our signs. Here, the x is going to be negative and the y is going to be negative. Here, the x is going to be positive and the y is going to be negative. Let's do our pi over 4s. They're going to be the same as these pi over 4s, so they're going to be square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, and square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Here the x value is going to be negative and the y value is going to be negative. Here x is positive and y is negative. And then all of our pi over 3s would have the same triangle, so they're all going to be the same. They're going to have an x value of 1/2, a y value of square root of 3 over 2. Except for here, x and y are both negative, and here x is positive and y is negative. We're going to draw this out a bunch of times. You can find, video after video, if you search online, of other people explaining how you would draw the unit circle. I would encourage that. But what this is going to enable us to find is if I want to talk about 30 degrees, I can find the cosine at 30 degrees by looking at the x value. I can find the sine of 30 degrees by looking at the y value. In fact, I encourage you to go into your calculator and type that in, sine of 30, and you should see 0.5. Now, if you don't, the mode on your calculator is messed up. You would need to go to mode and change it from radians to degrees. And we'll be going back and forth with that a bunch. I could also go to my calculator and type in mode radians and type in sine pi over 6, and I would get 1/2.